Welcome to the November installment of Sheila's Literary Sound Off, where I spend a little time chit-chatting about the books I love. This week, let's talk about poetry. Yes, poetry. There was a man from Nantucket who kept all of his cash in a bucket, but his daughter named Nan ran away with the man, and as for the bucket, Nantucket. Yes. Who doesn't love a good limerick, right? In fact, a few years ago, I visited the city of Limerick in the county of Limerick, and hold on. I don't mean Limerick Island, Ireland. I meant Limerick as in a kind of poem. Wait, now we're way off track. Let's see. Perhaps we should get back to what we're talking about today, and that's this book, Helen Frost's book, Crossing Stones. It's a historical fiction story told using poetry in the form of freeform and sonnets. It's set in 1917, and it's the story of two families that are separated by the Crab-Apple Creek, the Jorgensens on one side and the Normans on the other side. Helen states that she likens this kind of writing as painting with words, a process that involves hands and eyes and ears and thought and emotion all working together to create this wonderful story. Muriel Jorgensen's chapters are a loose, free-form style of poetry that represent the meandering creek, while Emma and Ollie's chapters are cupped sonnets that are in the shape of stones. Our lives and our fortunes. Muriel. We've all heard what is coming. We know the president will take us right into the middle of this war they're fighting overseas. Yet I can't help hoping against hope that someone, somehow, might find a way to keep us out of it. Our neighbors, Emma Norman and her parents, step carefully across Crab-Apple Creek on their way to our house, bringing the newspaper I don't want to see. Mr. Norman has his usual peppermints for Grace, and she, as always, passes them around until there's only one left in the bag, and then gives the bag to Mrs. Norman. "Take this home," she says, "and save it for when Frank comes back." She's done that at least once a week for the past 6 months since Frank left for basic training. I have no idea if Mrs. Norman actually saves them, but the thought is so big-hearted for a 7-year-old child. Maybe Frank can taste some kind of sweetness. Even all those miles away in Kansas, he must know that here in Michigan, we're missing him, and never more so than on this evening, as we gather close around the table and read the president's address to Congress. The world must be made safe for democracy. To such a task, we can dedicate our lives and our fortunes. The future is uncertain for all of these families and the lives that are connected and intertwined all around the Crab-Apple Creek. And all the while, Muriel is trying very hard to figure out how to become the person she knows she's meant to be. If this story looks interesting, I encourage you to take a look at the other two books also written by Helen Frost. The Braid follows two sisters in the 1850s in Scotland during the Highland clearances, and Diamond Willow, a current story set in a remote village in Alaska. Thanks for listening to me sound off about Crossing Stones by Helen Frost.